okay, picture this for a second. You're going to just go about your day. Maybe you're at the mall, maybe just sitting in your car late at night. And then, kind of out of the blue, someone approaches you. But they don't look quite right. And their eyes, they aren't just dark. They're like jet black. A total void where you expect to see pupils, irises, everything. And instantly your gut just screams, danger!
Yeah.
So today, yeah, we're diving deep into something. But frankly, it's one of the most chilling things people whisper about online. And sometimes offline, too. These encounters with what folks call black-eyed beings. Sometimes black-eyed children, sometimes adults. We've got a whole stack of firsthand stories and research here to try and unpack it.
That's right. And we're not just talking about someone being a bit eccentric or acting strangely. The descriptions are really consistent. We're talking about entities with these unnatural, pure black eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And they engage in these interactions that are just deeply disturbing. Everyone who reports this stuff talks about this profound, almost primal fear, just this intense unease. You know, it often gets looped into discussions about other weird figures like the Men in Black. It suggests maybe a connection to non-human things trying and sort of failing to act human, sometimes in really terrifying ways.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive, anyways, to really pull out the key details from these specific, firsthand accounts. We want to understand the patterns. What are the common threads? And why do these stories just stick with people, like, globally? What makes them so incredibly creepy?
Exactly. And the big question we want to explore with you is, what is this? Is it some kind of shared psychological thing, like a collective fear bubbling up? Or are these reports actually pointing towards something genuinely inexplicable, something outside our normal understanding of, well, anything? We'll look closely at the specific features, the behaviors people keep reporting, and, what that might actually imply.
Okay, so let's get into the anatomy of it all. Besides that awful gut feeling, what are people actually describing? It's got to be more than just the eyes, right? Though, let's be honest, the eyes are kind of the main event.
Okay.
Super disturbing.
Oh, absolutely. The eyes are, without doubt, the defining feature. People say things like, jet black to the point where I couldn't even see where his pupil began and his retina ended.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just dark eyes. It's described as a complete void. Some reports even say the whites of their eyes will be black, which is biologically just impossible for humans. Others use descriptions like black as coal with no pupil, no retina, no iris, nothing. Some even add they look like two black, shiny crystal balls. Almost artificial, It's this featureless, unnatural black. It screams other.
Wow. Yeah, that's intensely unsettling. What about the rest of them? Their general appearance? Is there any consistency there?
There is, actually, which is interesting in itself. Many witnesses mentioned this strange, pale skin, almost unnaturally white. And there's this recurring idea that they look like something that was attempting to look like a human, like a disguise that's just slightly off. Or they haven't quite nailed human expressions or mannerisms. And lots of reports mention them being hairless. No hair on their head, no eyebrows, no facial hair. And weirdly specific details sometimes pop up. Often Caucasian, often described as being in their mid-30s, maybe around 5'7". It's almost like a standard model or something.
Huh. It's that mix, isn't it? Specific details, but also this uncanny wrongness.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so chilling. But okay, here's where I think it gets really fascinating. It's not just the look, it's the behavior. There's this weirdly unsettling, almost like scripted pattern to how they interact. It's more than just garden variety creepy.
Exactly. Let's dive into one really detailed account we found. It really highlights these patterns. This was from an email a woman sent describing these really disturbing experiences she had with her husband and their two little kids.
Right, I remember this one. She said they were just at a store, in the local mall, and this man just suddenly approached them. And at first he seemed, very friendly and eager to keep the conversation going. Said their kids were cute, asked their ages. You might just think, okay, maybe a little too friendly, but harmless.
Precisely. But then it shifted really quickly. Despite this surface friendliness, he started pushing for really personal information. Where they lived exactly, their jobs, all their names, their ages, even asked if they had social media accounts. Then she said he looked right at her necklace and just asked, out of the blue, do you go to church around here?
She said she just felt this extremely creepy vibe, just very uncomfortable, deep unease.
Yeah.
They eventually made an excuse to get away, and she noticed he left the store right after, without buying anything, which just felt off.
Yeah, that alone is weird. But then it gets way, way stranger, doesn't it? It really does. What makes this case stand out is it wasn't just one time. Only 20 minutes later, she gets a Facebook friend request from him and someone listed as his, quote, wife. And the profile, she said it looked fake, not even a week old, very plain, hardly any photos or info, like a throwaway account. But then, the really scary part. 2 weeks later, they're at their local supermarket, and they see the exact same man. He's talking to another young couple, also with kids. But the second he makes eye contact with the woman from the mall, he just suddenly broke away, turned, and walked out of the store. Again, didn't buy a thing.
Whoa. It's like he recognized her at a board admission or something,
Yeah.
like running a program. But it didn't stop there, did it? Because just minutes later, still in the supermarket.
Yeah, still in the supermarket, in the toy aisle this time. Another man approaches them. And this is where it gets truly chilling. This new guy. Exact same description as the first one. Mid-30s, Caucasian, bald, no facial hair, about 5'7", and those same extremely dark black eyes. And his conversation, she said it was almost identical, complimenting the kids, asking their ages, saying he couldn't wait to have kids and was just shopping for his nephew, then asking if they live nearby, where they worked, their names, and then, that same bizarre question, I noticed your necklace. Do you go to church around here?
Oh, man. Her reaction, she said her blood turned cold. I mean, you would, wouldn't you? She said something like, people aren't this friendly to strangers, and that no middle-aged guy is ever that interested in her or her kids, let alone the fact that the two conversations were almost identical. It just highlights how artificial it all felt, like a performance.
Exactly. It really underscores this pattern that's way beyond coincidence. Both men, friendly act aside, were clearly trying to get as much information from us as possible. And maybe the creepiest part, they seem to be very interested in our two small children.
It suggests this cold, calculated approach, like they had a specific objective, not just a random chat. It feels like, I don't know, surveillance or information gathering.
Yeah, that methodical feeling is what makes it so different from just, encountering someone strange.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Another common scenario for these things seems to be showing up at someone's door, or like in this next case, their car.
Right, this one's from Texas. It involved a journalist. He was working late, sitting in his car in a parking lot, just sorting out his checkbook, actually, paying bills, just parked, minding his own business.
Yeah.
And then
He said, out of nowhere and out of the darkness, two children walked up to his car, knocking on the window.
And they started asking for a ride home, saying they needed to get money from their parents so they could go see a movie at the local theater. But the key thing here, the immediate red flag, was the time. It was super late. The movie theater was definitely closed. The request made no sense.
And here's where it gets really psychologically disturbing. The man specifically recalled locking eyes with the children. And he said, without even thinking, he looked down and saw his own hand reaching to unlock the car door. He actually caught himself doing it. It wasn't just them asking. It felt like some kind of compulsion, an urge to let them in, even against his better judgment.
That is terrifying, like some kind of mind control light or something, a subtle push. So what did he do when he caught himself? He freaked out. He sped away from the children, not letting them in. He described it later as being an absolute fear for his life. He said it was the most frightened he's ever been in his entire life. And this overpowering, almost primal fear, often mixed with that weird urge to comply that comes up again and again in these stories. It's not just being scared of them, it's this feeling of mortal danger and maybe losing your own free will.
Okay, so we've got these really intense, specific stories. And what strikes me, listening again, is just how consistent the narrative is. Doesn't seem to matter if it's an adult or a kid. The core stuff is weirdly the same. Those unnatural black eyes, the way they ask questions so directly, sometimes inappropriately, this strange focus on personal detail, sometimes specifically on kids, and yeah, that deep instinctive fear they trigger.
And the settings, too, right? It's often mundane places, stores, parking lots, or sometimes right at your doorstep, often late at night. They don't just ask normal things. The demands are weird, illogical, the questions are way too personal for a stranger, and then, poof, they often leave just as suddenly as they showed up. Especially if you refuse them or cut them off. Witnesses sometimes say they seem to just vanish moments later, like they weren't solidly there to begin with, or they can just dematerialize.
So connecting those dots, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is there a point to these encounters? Are they actually trying to get information, like gathering data on us, our families, maybe our weaknesses? Or is it more like testing, pushing boundaries, seeing how much influence they have, like that journalist almost unlocking his car door?
Or maybe, just maybe, their whole presence is designed to provoke a reaction. Maybe that intense fear itself is the goal. Or that weird compulsion, the fact they never seem to do anything normal, like buy something in a store or have a request that makes logical sense, like the closed theater. It really suggests their purpose isn't what's on the surface. It's not human motivation as we know it. It could be reconnaissance, like you said, or testing. Or maybe something even stranger, like feeding off that fear they generate. It does echo some of those old Men in Black reports: observation, subtle manipulation, maybe containment of some kind.
Yeah, that journalist almost unlocking the door without choosing to.
Yeah.
That's a level of influence that's just deeply creepy. What is that? And yeah, never buying anything, no logical reason for being there. It just reinforces that feeling. Their goal isn't normal interaction. It feels targeted, not random at all.
This whole black-eyed stranger phenomenon, it really is one of the most consistently creepy and frankly mysterious things people report. It just defies any easy, neat explanation. The consistency is what gets me. The eyes, the weirdly identical questions sometimes, that tangible sense of dread. It points to something, a pattern that really challenges how we think about, well, reality.
So what's the takeaway for you listening to this? I mean, these stories, they sound like something out of a movie, right? Urban legends, maybe. But the sheer number of them and how similar they are, it's a pretty powerful, maybe unsettling reminder to always trust your gut. If a situation just feels profoundly wrong, if someone's asking questions that are way too personal, too robotic, or if just being near them triggers that deep alarm bell, listen to it. Your intuition might be picking up on stuff your logical brain hasn't caught yet.
And that leads to a really interesting question for you to think about, doesn't it? You know, we live in this age of constant information, constant interaction. Reality and fiction get blurry sometimes. So how do you tell the difference between someone who's just genuinely odd, maybe socially awkward, and something else, something truly outside the norm? When do you use logic, and when do you just know deep down that something is fundamentally wrong, even if you can't explain exactly why? What if triggering that primal fear, that wrongness, is actually part of their toolkit?
Definitely something to think about. Stay curious, folks. Stay aware. And keep those senses and that intuition sharp. This has been our deep dive into the very unsettling world of the black-eyed beings.